afternoon. It's Monica from Life as Art, and this is the 3:30 p.m. demo at the Garden Friends online crop. We are having lots of fun today, I think, and I hope you've been having some time to get crafty and to work on some of the challenges that were posted this morning. But this afternoon, we're going to be looking at one of the new collections in the July-September catalog from Close to My Heart. And the one specifically that we're going to be looking at is called Backyard Bliss. And it is gorgeous, gardeny, summer collection. And it has so many pretty papers and embellishments and Picture My Life cards and stamp sets. And so we're going to go ahead and take a look at it. And specifically, we're going to create this layout because as soon as I opened this catalog, I knew that this particular layout was one that I was going to have to recreate. Good afternoon, Sue. Nice to see you're watching. And hopefully I will see all your comments as they come in. So if you're watching, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. And if you're watching later, just say replay. So we're going to recreate this layout. Now, I like to show this particular method of coming up with your measurements. Every time we do one of these events, I like to show this because it's such a cool technique. And what you want to do to figure out any layout, whether it's in the catalog or in a magazine or online, you see a layout and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to make that layout, but I have no idea what sizes of things they used. Hey, Robin, nice to see you're watching. Hey, Michelle from work. Shh, we won't tell. We'll say it very quietly. Michelle from work. And Sue says she's just stalking us a little. That's okay. You can totally do that. So I like to show this very cool method of determining the sizes of all the things on the paper instead of just by guess and by golly, which is how I used to do it. But what you do is you look at your layout. Now, thankfully, in our catalogs, we have a little indication down at the bottom that says what size this layout is. So this one is a 12 by 12. So I know that whatever I cut that fits from side to side will then be my 12-inch ruler, okay? So I took a piece of cardstock and I laid it across from side to side and I trimmed it to the right side. It doesn't have to be cardstock. It can be any scrap piece of paper you have. If it's a small thing, like this little card, you can even use a Post-it note, anything, just a scrap piece of paper. And so you cut it exactly to the size. And then you say to yourself, this is now 12 inches. So if you know that this is 12 inches and you fold it in half, all you math geniuses out there that are way better than me, this is now 6 inches, right? Because we folded our 12 inches in half. And then if I fold that in half again, this is now my 3-inch measurement, okay? 3 inches because that's half of 6. So then when we open it up, we can go to those spots and we can mark 6 inches, 3 inches, 9 inches, and then I kind of eyeball the in-betweens, the 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8. So now I have a ruler that's specifically made for this layout. Now if I turn to any other page in the catalog, this ruler might not work, right? It's specifically made for this layout. So now that I've had this piece, I can then line it up and I can say, okay, this chicken wire pattern in the background, it's not quite 12 inches, it's a little bit less. So if I envision half of this, so I'm going to say that this is 11 3/4 inch wide. And then to find out how tall it is, it goes all the way from here up to here. So I'm going to say that it is 11 1/4 inches tall. So now we know that our chicken wire piece of pattern paper is 11 3/4 by 11 1/4. Okay? And then we can also say, okay, what size is our photos? So let's measure the width of our photos. And we have a 3-inch by a 4-inch photo. And then we can measure our photo mats, and that's 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. Okay, and they're all the same, so you can verify it if you want, but that works. And oh, what size should I cut my little garden flag here for my title? And I measure, and it's 7 1/2 inches. And then I go this way. Oh, it's by 1 and, oh, let's say 3/8. It's not quite 1 1/2. Okay, so that's how you get these measurements. Now, the really interesting thing that I loved about this layout was this fun tiling of pattern papers that they did down here at the bottom. But if you look closely, you'll see that they're all angled. So they're like rectangles, but they're angled. So this row is angled from the bottom left to the top right. This row is from the top left to the bottom right. And then it goes back to this angle, and then it goes back to this angle. And I think that is such a unique pattern that I wanted to copy that. So this is where I needed 2 pieces of paper. So I took 1 piece of paper and I lined it up. Let's do this green one in the center. I lined it up so it was nice and vertical. And then I took my ruler that I created and I measured to the farthest tip. And that was 2 3/4. And then I looked here to see what the angle was, and I see that it's about 3/8 of an inch angle. So I'm going to show you how I created those. Oh, and the height is 1 1/4. Okay, so then we have to get all of our papers together. Now that we've sorted out the ruler for this, so I'm going to leave my book here so that you can kind of see as we're creating. And I'm just going to give the camera a minute to catch up so I can see that you can see it. Yes, okay, it's all in the frame. So our base page is just a piece of white daisy cardstock. So let's get that, a 12 by 12 white daisy, just like that. Hey Mom, nice to see you're watching. Hey Carol, you're back again. Woohoo! And then I have my chicken wire that has been cut to 11 3/4 by 11 1/4. And so this is going to be added on here so that it's a little bit in from all the edges. But the most space is going to be left at the top because we have a zip strip and we have glitter paper or shimmer trim that's been added across here as well. And so let's go ahead and stick this down. The back side of this is the gorgeous wood grain, which makes me sad that I'm covering it up, but I love the chicken wire too. And if I'm too sad about it being covered up, then I'll just have to buy more. But it's going to make an appearance anyway, because you can see that on some of those angled pieces, we have the wood grain there as well. So let me just remove the backing. It's always fun when you're working with such a large piece of paper to keep it under the camera. There we go. And for some reason, my hands are really shaky. I'm not sure what that's about, but my hands all of a sudden got shaky. So bear with me on that. So I'm going to line this up, hopefully straight, so that we can get a nice little edge all the way around. And then we have our zip strip and our shimmer trim or our glitter paper. And I'm going to use glitter paper. And I've used the Desert Rose, but my measurement's a little bit off. And so this is sometimes where you just have to make it work for your situation. So there's this lovely zip strip, and I love it. And I have actually used this zip strip before. And so as a result, I only have one piece that's 12 inches long, but it's only half the height. It's not a full ½ inch, it's only 1/4 of an inch. And so this is where the problem comes in, is that this is supposed to be a full height. So what I did is I compensated by getting a little more glitter. Who minds having a little more glitter, right? We can all have a little more glitter. So I'm going to go ahead and attach my glitter here. So normally this would be ½ of an inch zip strip, and this would be about 1/8 of an inch, just a teeniest, tiniest little bit of glitter. But I have decided to to amp it up a little bit so that it all fits the way it should. And I can go ahead and lay that on there at the top, and I forgot to trim the length. Look at that. Silly me. So I'll just use my scissors to adjust that. And I always use liquid glue when I'm dealing with something smaller than 1/2 inch, because I will just never get my adhesive to go straight when I'm trying to use something this small. Now, if you're using a tape runner, the way that you would want to do that is to use your all-purpose mat and lay this on your all-purpose mat, and that way anything that goes over the edge will just be on the all-purpose mat, and it can just be rubbed off, easy peasy. And this has probably not been cut to the right length either. So you know, I'm teaching you all about how to cut it to the right length, and then I don't cut it to the right length. It's, you know, do as I say, not as I do. Oh, well, there we go. So even though my little strip is a little bit more narrow, we still get that nice little color pop from all of those pretty, pretty colors that are in that zip strip. Sue says, too much or not enough coffee will give you the shakes. Well, I haven't had any coffee. I did have some Coke, though. So I've probably missed a few comments here, but yes, definitely, Sue. Oh, you can always, you never go wrong with a little more bling, right? So just bumping up that little bit of Desert Rose glitter paper doesn't bother me at all. Not one bit. But now we need to start working at the bottom. So we're going to start here at the bottom. And I took my trusty ruler and I laid it on here, and I measured from the corner of the chicken wire paper. And this tip of the wood grain piece of paper is right at the 6-inch mark. So it's that bottom tip is right in the center, and that will help us determine where everything else is going on the layout. We're just going to build off of that. But before we get to that, I want to show you how I got the angled pieces. Okay, so the only one I haven't cut yet, because I didn't want you to have to sit here and watch me cut every single piece of this. That would be a little tedious. So the only one I haven't cut is this piece of shortbread, and we need just a couple of them, and I think this little tip right here is also a piece, but we'll probably get that off of this piece that gets trimmed. So I need to cut 2 pieces. One of them is going to angle up to the left, and one is going to angle up to the right. So what I do is I take my 1 1/4 inch strip, and I lay it here on my Versamat. Now normally I would do it way down here at the bottom, but for the video I'm going to do it up here. And so let's do the left, the up to the left angle first. So what we want to do is we want to measure in 3/8 of an inch, which is 1/4 of an inch, and then halfway between the 1/4 and the half. So 3/8 of an inch, okay? And then we know that our longest length that we're going to get is 2 3/4. So I'm going to mark it here right at 2 3/4. Because that's our longest tip, and we're angling up this way. So the top angle will be shorter. So then we go to the top side, and we go to 2 3/4, and we're going to measure back that way to the left 3/8 of an inch. So we're going to go 1/4 of an inch, and then halfway to the next 1/4. And this is where the Versamat definitely comes in handy. So you can probably not see my pencil marks, but I'll lift it up to try and help show you. So we've got our 3/8 of an inch mark here, and then we have our 2 3/4 here, and then we went to 2 3/4 on this side, and then backed it up 3/8 of an inch, okay? And now we need, and I put it away, so I gotta grab it. Now we need our little trimmer here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna line up from this tip to this mark. So we're just gonna feed that through there. So you're going to want to line up the top left tip with the mark at the bottom, and trim it on that angle, just like that. And then we're going to run it back through, and we're going to line up these two marks. The one that was marked at 2 3/4, and then the one that was 3/8 of an inch less. There we go. So that is our angle going up to the left that's going to sit right in that spot. So now let's do this other one. So it's the same process, but now we need to think about the fact that it's angling the other way. So I'm gonna cheat, and I'm gonna turn it around so that I'm using the nice square edge instead of dealing with this weird angle. Otherwise, I could just trim it straight and then start again, but for time, we're gonna do it this way. So now this time we're angling up to the right. So our angle on this side is going to come up this way. So we're going to measure over 3/8 of an inch. So 1/4, then 1/8, and make a little pencil mark. And if you make a small enough pencil mark, you probably don't even have to go back and erase it later. It kind of gets chopped off. And then we need to mark our farthest point. And so it's the same side as the one we just marked. So we're going to go out 2 3/4 inches and mark that farthest away point. Then we're going to come to the other side, and we're going to start at that farthest away point, but we're going to move back 3/8 of an inch so that we're marking it at the 2 3/8. Okay, and then we can grab our little trimmer again and trim these two angles. Now, if I'm going to cut several of these, obviously I'm going to just trim this, and then I'm gonna put this back on my Versamat and mark the next one, and trim it and mark the next one, right? Because we've already got one of the angles done. And in fact, with the cardstock, I really could have, if I wanted to, I could have just cut off of this one and then flipped it and just had one piece a little bit paler than the other. But I figured, you know what, we'll just go this way. So now this time I'm going to angle from my first little mark to the top, or well, to the bottom now. There we go. And then my second cut between those two marks. And there we have the piece that will go right there. And that's it. We're all ready to start assembling these, because by the miracle of Facebook, I have already gotten all of the other ones ready ahead of time. It's like when you watch a cooking show and they magically have a whole batch of whatever already created. Gotta love it. Okay, so let me just set those aside, so I'll grab those when we get to them. And because I'm a crazy person, I've actually got my pieces, and in the order, the same order that they've done them, but really, you can just, it's your layout. You can do it however you want, right? And so I'm going to use my liquid glue for this, just because it'll be a little faster than dealing with the tape. And so we said we wanted to start at the 6-inch point, and we're going to leave about the same distance as there is from the edge of the base page. So about 1/8 of an inch. And we're going to try and keep it kind of straight if we can. And we're just going to start laying these on. It's that simple. We just need to pay attention to the gap that we're leaving in between each one. So we're going to leave the same distance, 1/8 of an inch in between. And as long as we keep ourselves as straight as possible, we'll keep going. Now, one thing that I forgot about, that in my mind I said, make sure you do it this way. I didn't do. And that was, I was going to actually do this patterning before I attached the chicken wire to my base page, because that way I could trim my little pieces off after they were on there. But since I didn't do it that way, I'm going to have to trim as I go. So that's a handy tip. If you're going to make this layout, then you can maybe wait until the end to attach your chicken wire to the base page. I have these things in my brain and then I forget them in the moment. Do you ever have that? I think we were discussing this during the other demo. I think I just randomly forget stuff. Always. I always randomly forget. Okay, so let's add this. And these are such fun pattern papers. These two are actually back-to-back pattern papers. So there's one side that's sort of wildflowers, and then the other side is vegetables from the garden, which is fun. And then we have this one that is sort of a leafy vine, and on the back side is the grass. And that's a really cool pattern. I'm just going to scooch my catalog out of the way, because what I want to do is I'm going to kind of line it up, and then I'm going to flip it over so that I only add glue on the part that I need to. Just like this. And it's going to look weird because I'm going to let them hang over here, but I'll trim them off after. I sure will. So there we go with my shaky hands. Adding that. Okay, then our next level up, we have, and I'm going to put these on dry because I want to kind of get my spacing right. We've got that we just cut. I'll scooch this back in. And then we have our wood grain. Nope, I grabbed the wrong pile. No, I didn't. I have this going the wrong way. There we go. See, this is why we do it dry first. Oh boy. And then we can add all of these ones across and then determine our spacing. Because I think they're a little bit like subway tiles. You're kind of aiming for halfway in between. So let's just kind of get ourselves to the place where we think we want them. Like that, and that, and that. And that's looking good. And then I'm going to start in the middle because it's always easiest to start in the middle and work your way out. I find that if I tend to start at the side and work my way across, it gets a little out of line. So there we go. Line that up. And the next one, I love this wood grain. It's such a nice sort of mid-tone color. It's not a pale wood grain. It's not a really dark one. It's just a nice mid-tone. And it's even got sort of the joins in between and the nails or screws. So you can cut it to make it look like a backyard fence if you want, which is cool because, you know, it's the whole backyard bliss. And there, once again, I forgot about leaving the glue off, so I'll just wipe it away and stick that down like that. It's looking good. What do you guys think? Isn't this a fun pattern? I love the subway tile look, but I love the angles, and I also like that they alternated the angles. It's just so interesting. You know, when you look at a layout like this, your eye just kind of travels around and makes you want to look at all the interesting things because it's not exactly what you expect, right? So let me see. I want to avoid the edge. This is very fancy, you know, wiping it off with my finger. Very fancy. There we go. Line it up. Like so. And then we're jumping up to the next row. And, oh, there's the little piece that I missed from down here. So let's go ahead and add some glue to this. This is the papaya cardstock that we're adding here to add a little extra color. And you're going to see that come in again because we're going to use papaya for the photo mats. So I like that they kind of carried that through. We've got, you know, in the glitter and then down at the bottom, but also in the photo mats. So there's that. And then let's line up our next row. So what I did for this one, the papaya, I actually made one piece and then just cut it in half so that I didn't have to cut two pieces. I knew it was going to be on the edge anyway. So that's a handy little tip. And then we'll line these up And this is where we add in another piece of shortbread, cardstock, and then the green grass, and then the wood grain. All right, so let's see. Let's find our sort of our middle one. There's that cute little bumblebee. Isn't he so sweet? I like the bumblebee. All right. Well, you need bees in your garden, don't you? Because without the bees and all the insects that crawl around and pollinate, it doesn't work. My kids used to love watching that movie, The Bee Movie, where it was talking about how, you know, we can't survive without the bees. There we go. Try and maintain our spacing. If we get a little off, if we spread out a little bit, it's okay because we're just adding things on top later anyway. So it's all good. If you find that you see any pencil marks from what we did to do the measuring, that's okay. We can come back later with an eraser and kind of touch those up. And there we go. And then this one is just a little snippet. So I'll be smart this time and only put glue on the part that I need. Sometimes I remember. There we go. And I was pushing on that greenery and glued it in the wrong spot. So I'll just see if I can slide it a bit. If it hasn't completely stuck. There we go. Straighten it out a bit. And there we go. That's the other great thing about the liquid glue. You can kind of fix any little things quickly and you're in good shape. All right, I haven't been looking at the comments. People could be saying all sorts of things. Robin says, love it so far, very neat. Yes, this is a great way to use the scraps up. Absolutely. And you know what? You can mix in patterns from other collections too. It doesn't have to be all one collection when you're doing this kind of design, right? You can mix and match, and especially those mix-in papers. If you were short of, you know, if you're down to scraps and you need a few extras, those mix-in paper packs that we have are fabulous for this. And you just keep on creating. Okay, so now our top row. Let's get this lined up like so. And there. And somehow it shows up here that they have a little tip, but mine's going right off the edge, so I'm not going to need that. I don't know how that worked out. But that's okay. I'm good. There we go. I wonder if they changed the size on the top row. I never measured them all individually. I only measured one. But it looks like they're all still the same size. Oh, this one looks a little shorter actually. Maybe they sort of shorted themselves on that one. But anyway, I don't need to add the extra little piece. I'm good with that. But that's good to know if you run out and you need to add a little extra piece. Just grab another little piece and tuck it in. There we go. And then this one, we'll line it up like this. And then you're going to see me do a really fancy trim job on this. And by fancy, I mean haphazard. There we go. You're going to see how I do it when nobody's looking. And that is I take my X-Acto knife and just do a quick little trim. It's kind of like when you drop your ink pad. That's just an opportunity to add an embellishment. And so when you overshoot the edge and you forgot to wait till the end to lay down your paper, you just grab your X-Acto and trim it. It's all good. But I'm going to allow them to sit for a moment because I don't want to use my blade and pull them because they've still got wet glue. So we're going to give them just a minute and we're going to keep going here. The next thing I'm going to need to do is I'm going to add the matting to my photos. So let me bring those in and show you. There's Mr. Joshua when he was little, and we had planted some tomatoes in the backyard and some pots. And so there's Justin. They were very proud of their tomatoes as they were growing. And this is actually a previous photo from when we actually planted them. So those are the 3 photos that I'm going on here. We were renting a basement apartment at the time. I can't grab my photo mats. I'm going to have to slide them around. We were renting a basement apartment, and so we couldn't dig up the backyard. So we had to do all of our gardening in pots, and that's perfectly perfectly a good solution to that problem. So I've got my 3 by 4 inch photos, and I have my 3 1/4 by 4 1/4 inch photo mats. And I'm going to go ahead here and add these on here. I like that it just happened to work out that my kids' clothes kind of go really well with the colors in this collection. Now there's a lot of colors in the collection, so that helps. But the gray and sort of this burgundy, it all kind of looks okay with this. I know some people are always a little worried, oh, it doesn't match what my family is wearing, and so they'll actually plan when they take photos to try and get their family to coordinate with whatever paper they want to use. And that sounds like a cool idea, but I never plan that far ahead, especially when you're catching up, because this guy is now 18 and this guy is just about to turn 20. So obviously these photos have been waiting a long time to get onto pages, and so, you know, it's not like you can go back in time and redo the photos. You just take them as they come. And, oh, I didn't even take the sticky off this. Oh my goodness. I was like, why is that photo lifting? I didn't even take the backing off. You guys are going to have to shout at me over the comments. You didn't take the backing off. All right. There we go. And now when you're looking at this kind of layout, you need to take into account your photos, and you need to take into account to where people are in the photos. So if you look at this particular photo that I have here, you will see that Justin is kind of hunched down, right? And so this is not necessarily a photo that I would put on this side, because a good chunk of him would be chopped off with our title, right? And so this photo would be the same thing, right? Poor little Joshua would get chopped off by that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put this one in the center, and then I'm going to put Justin down here on the side because it kind of ends here, so you'll still see him. And then Joshua, whose photo is, you know, a little larger and a little more up in the air, it can go on this side and you'll still see him because he won't be blocked by the title. So it's important to think of those things. The other thing you want to think about, and something you can't really change, because, you know, I'm not now taking the photos. As I said, these are old photos. So the other thing you have to take in mind is the way that people are facing, right? So if you look at Joshua, he's looking kind of straight ahead. And Justin has kind of turned his body this way. But because he's a larger picture and looking straight ahead, it makes almost more sense to have them on this side, because Justin has kind of got his arms pointing this way. And same with this photo. His arm is kind of pointing this way. We're both looking down. It makes sense to have it in the center. So if you had a photo where, say, if Joshua was looking off to the left, you wouldn't want to put it on this side of the page, because then he's like looking off the page, right? Unless you're doing a second matching page, and then it would be okay. But as a standalone page, you want to make sure that everybody kind of is focusing towards the viewer almost. The only other time where you would want to kind of ignore that, well, there's probably many times, would be, say, if you were taking like a, you know, there's a vast landscape and somebody's kind of got their half back to the camera and they're looking off into the distance, then it's okay, because they can be looking off the page because they're looking at a long distance shot and that's okay. you can do that. So now let's go ahead and we're going to attach these to the page. Let me just get them all glued up here. And so sometimes if you're like me and you're scrapping older photos, you just kind of need to think of those things when you're choosing a layout too, right? You need to think about, okay, where's it going to go and which way is it going to be, and so that it all makes sense. Now I think I'm going to do, let's see how far down they come. So this one comes down actually pretty far onto that pattern over here. And this one comes down pretty far on here. And if I take my little ruler, wherever I put it, I moved it, there it is, I can actually measure. So this is where our little ruler comes in handy. So we're about 1.5 inches, and yeah, about 1.5 inches in from the edge. And then at the top end, let's see, about just 7/8. So if we come and look for 1.5 inches and then about 7/8, that's about our angle that we want. So 1.5 inches right there, and then about 7/8. There we go. So that gives us a good view of the angle we want. And then this one, we can use our ruler, is about 1/2 inch higher to 5/8 of an inch higher. So let's go right about there and kind of make sure it's equally in between as I knock everything out of the way. There we go. And then we can attach these. So even if you want help with placement of where things are going to go, you can use that handy dandy little ruler to do that. So again, we're going to 1.5 inches in and about 7/8 like that. I always figure if you're recreating a layout, it's different from being inspired by a layout. If you're recreating a layout, you want to try and keep it as close as you can to the original, because whatever it was about the original that drew you to it, you want to kind of maintain that, because that's why you chose it in the first place, right? So there we go. Added that one. Now, if you're using a layout as inspiration, that's a different kettle of fish, because then you can just kind of pick and choose the things that you love about it. Now, I've also cut the piece for our garden title, so I'm just going to scooch this out of the way. And the stamp set that we're using for this is the Backyard Bliss Scrapbooking Stamp Set. And this is the one that I used when I was making my Kit of the Month Club kit. And for those of you who know about that, I just started that last month, doing Kit of the Month. So for those of you who place an order, $60 or more, you get sent the Kit of the Month to you from me. And so I'm going to grab my papaya ink and my stamp. I'm going to ink it up. And I've got my second Versamat here turned over to the back side. And that gives me a nice stamping surface. I'm going to try and stamp it in the middle, like so. There we go. Lovely with the papaya ink. And then we can dovetail the ends of this. And once again, we measured this up, and it was, oh, I didn't write it down. Excellent. It was about 7.5 by 2, no, sorry, 1, I can't see. 1 3/8. 3/8. Oh, Ina's going to love me with all those eighths that I'm using. So to dovetail, we're just going to snip in the center, and then we're going to come from the bottom corner to the top of the snip, And then from the other corner to the top of the snip. And then we're going to turn around, snip in the center. And when you're doing dovetails, you never really want to go more than 1/2 inch, even if it's a really wide one. Usually when people get frustrated with dovetailing, it's because they're trying to cut it too deep. And it just looks awkward when you do that. I don't know if that's the technical term for it or not, but it looks awkward. And so, you know, just avoid it. So let's grab some foam tape here. I've got some of the thin foam tape. And we're going to pop this up a little bit. Give it a bit of dimension. Just like that. And that. We haven't popped anything up yet. So it's nice to do it. Give our title a little bit of prominence on our page. There we go. And one more. And I love these scissors because I can cut foam tape and go right back to cutting paper, and it doesn't get sticky. Non-stick scissors. It's the awesome thing. So my comments aren't doing anything right now, so I hope I'm not missing what you're saying. Chances are I have missed something. I apologize for that, but it doesn't always work very well. Okay, so now this is going to be going here in the center, and it's just above the top there. So I'm going to go right about there. Lovely. And then we also have our little extra title, the "You Can Find Me in the," and so I've got a little bit of a little tiny strip of cardstock, and yes, I used my ruler to do this, so hopefully it's the right size, and I'm probably going to have to put my head into the camera or, you know, move it really close to myself to get it lined up, because it's a tight squeeze. So I'm coming right down here to the bottom. Going to ink that up. You can find me in the, there we go. And because I'm already, you know, encroaching on my photo, which I knew was going to happen, I don't want to go too much higher up. So I'm just looking for my foam tape. Where is it? There we go. I'm trying to find the narrower. This is the thin foam tape still, but it's the narrower one. So I'm going to add my foam tape, and this piece isn't, oh, it is dovetailed. I was about to say, this one isn't dovetailed, but it is. But wait, it is. So let's put our foam tape on, and then we'll dovetail it. And I put my foam tape a little bit crooked, because it's a tight squeeze. This is like 1/4 inch strip here. So let me try and adjust that a little bit. Okay, so let's dovetail the ends. Like so. Nice. Same method as the big one. Just a little snip. And then in from the corner. And then in from the other corner. It's always the little details that make everything look the way you want it, right? There we go. My foam tape's gone a little funky. So then let's center this. So I'm actually going to push this down onto the other one pretty far, because I don't want to go any farther up into my photo. Okay, and then let's do our trimming that we're going to do here on the little bits that are on the side. If I can find my X-Acto blade. I had it. There it is. A long reach. Okay, and my ruler. So what I want to do is I want to trim these off, but I don't necessarily want to cut right through to my base page. So I'm just going to go gently, and that should do it all the way along. And I've lined my ruler up. No, I went too gently. I was being too gentle. There we go. You just kind of keep going until you feel it release. I don't want to trim my weight daisy. Just the pattern paper. Has anybody else ever had to do this? gone back. I do this a lot with shimmer trim. If I forget to add the shimmer trim before, I usually end up having to go back and trim it with my X-Acto blade. It's kind of a pattern with me, having to go back and trim things. There we go. Let's line it up. So we're lining it up along the edge of that chicken wire. We don't want to line it up with the edge of the base page. Oh, that one went well. This will take a couple because it's cardstock. Almost there. Almost there. And sometimes I do it freehand, but it always turns out much nicer if I use the ruler. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to do it the nicer way with the ruler. And the last one. Okay, so now if we had done it the way I had intended, we would now have stuck down our base page, our pattern paper to our base page. But now it is completely done in that regard. So now we have all of our major components. Now we're just down to the fun part of adding the embellishing. And so that's where we're going to bring in our sticker sheet and also the die cuts from Backyard Bliss. So let me get these out of the bag and let's gather up all the components that we're going to need. Slide that out. I'm trying to be careful because some of these pieces are going to just want to fall right off. Okay, so we're going to need one of the little flowers, one of the big flowers, and these are die cuts, paperboard, that are wood grain printed. So it's wood grain, but it is like just barely thicker than cardstock, right? It's just paperboard. And so that is fabulous because if you like to scrapbook low profile, sorry, that didn't focus on that. Let me see if I can get it to focus. You can see how thin this element is, right? It's just so nice and thin. So there's one of our elements that we need, that one there. Then we're going to need these. And whenever I'm popping these things out, I always like to push from the back and pull the piece I want to keep to the front. And that way, if by any chance, and as you can see, like they're really well cut, they're laser cut. If by any chance anything wants to rip or tear, because the back is white, it'll be the back side and not the front where the pattern is, right? So let's just pop these, push them up from the back, and lay them on here so we have an idea of which ones we're using. And then let's also grab, I think that one is maybe one of the medium-sized ones. It might be a small one, but we'll use a medium-sized one anyway. And then we've got one here that's a little cluster of leaves, like so. And so that's going to go there. And then we have another single leaf. I like to do this ahead of time because occasionally when they make things for the catalog, they may add extra pieces from like a second pack. And so I like to lay it out ahead of time so that I know I have all the pieces that I want to use. And if I have to substitute any, I'm not taking a piece that I need for something else, right? It's kind of how I look at it. So let's kind of get these on here. We've got this one, and then this one will be tucked over here, and this one's tucked under there, and this one comes up here, and then we have this one will be coming over here. This is also a great way to learn how to cluster embellishments. If it's not something that you feel confident doing, is to follow a layout that you love, because you will sort of learn, okay, we're mixing wooden with stickers, with stamped items, with bling, with, you know, and you get to kind of practice that in a safe environment, right? Because, you know, it's already there. So let's work on this cluster first. So we need to look at the stickers and how they're layered. So we have this nice sprig that's happening right there, and that's this guy. And it's kind of coming up out of from behind here. like so. And then this little guy is going to be tucked in. And I'm going to use liquid glue for this. Just like that. Just add a little bit. Now I also have a trick, okay? And so I'll show you the trick. I put a little bit of liquid glue on my hand. And then I take my item and I just tap it in the liquid glue. And then I can go ahead and add it to my layout. And I know that I'm not going to have so much glue on there that it's just going to smush everywhere, because I only picked up what I needed. And then the next thing we want is this little sprig. Yes, just confirming that. And so it's going to come in here like that. Nice little sprig. And this little one can be tucked kind of under the edge of the sprig. Just like that. Lovely. And then we also have a little trio of leaves like that. Now I noticed when I was doing this that obviously they have used some leaves from a different collection, or not a different collection, but a second sheet of stickers, because they used more than what's available on a single sheet. And that's okay. It just means that I need to kind of improvise when I get to some of these. So let's add our little leafy guy here. Now I didn't mention it when I was adding my photos, but you may have noticed that I didn't go right to the edge with my glue for my photos, and I didn't put a lot. And that's so that I had the space to tuck things. And so that's good to keep in mind. Now you'll notice here, hopefully you can see it, there's a little sprig of the same kind of sticker that's up here, coming here, but we don't have that available. We don't have another one of those. And so we can substitute something else if we want, but I'm going to wait until I know what I have available. So let's take one of these little guys. And we can add that on there. Maybe we'll even add a little bit of foam tape. Just some thin foam tape on the back of it. Just because it's fun. And I'm not even going to bother with the anti-static pouch. I'm just going to go ahead and add it. And peel the back. And pop it on there like that. And then we have this guy. I think I still have some glue available on my hand. And then we can tuck them under there. Let me grab my little lifty tool here. And I can get under the edge there like that. And what I'm going to do on this particular side is I'm actually going to ignore that little leaf that we don't have. And yeah, that's going to be just all right. Let's grab our little dragonfly. I love that they included some little garden insects into this. And I'm also going to grab some foam tape to add to the back of this. And this is the thicker foam tape, like so. I'm probably going to play around with a couple pieces just because. Like that. And I'm not going to use the anti-static pouch on this one either. I'm just going to go with it. And you hear me saying that anti-static pouch. That's the little pouch that you use when you're heat embossing, and it's got a little bit of starch in it. And if you tap it on the back of your sticker, once you have your foam tape on there, it takes the stick off of places that you didn't want stickiness to be anymore. And so that's a fun technique when you're layering up stickers and things, but these are so tiny, and I'm using a decent amount of foam tape on them that I'm not going to worry about it. So let's move over to the cluster on this side. And we have a little sprig that's going that way, and I actually think it's this one right here. And it's going to come up from the top. Where's my little lifty thing? This is where the little lifty thing comes in handy. And kind of comes up like that. And then this little guy We'll just hold on to him for a second because we got a couple little leaves here. Let me see if I can find them. I was looking for them earlier and I don't really see them. That dark green. But what I'm going to do is we've got some of these lighter green ones. So I'm going to add a couple of those like so. Like so. I don't know what that is, but like so. There's one. And then two. And then we can add our wood grain, paperboard, die cut, just like that. Tap, tap, tap. Add that in, and this one's going to be up a little bit. It's going to look a little weird, but it's because we're putting a sticker there anyway. And then we've got a trio of leaves again on this side, and one more of these up here. So we'll stick this one like that, and this one, move that down a little smidge, like that, and then this guy gets tucked in under it. It's always so much fun watching somebody embellish, and you just, they're just mumbling to themselves. At least that's what I find. I just feel like I'm mumbling to myself when I do this. And now there's this little sprig here, and that's not something that we have on our sticker sheet. So it could have been a stamped item from the other stamp set in this collection, but I don't have that. And this little leafy bit here actually looks like the leaves from this little radish or turnip, but I want to use this for something else. So I'm not going to use that. I'm going to substitute in this little sprig here in place of that. And that's totally doable. You don't have to follow exactly what's in there. So we're adding our little sprig there and a little bit of the poster board like so. Oh no, Sue's internet keeps kicking her out. That's so frustrating. It really is. Ugh. There we go. We're going to add that like that because we're going to add a couple, or 3 flowers on here. So we've got one of the pink ones here, and then we have 2 of the little sort of bluish ones. I think they're both the same size. Maybe this one and this one. I'm going to get a sticker on every finger because it's not a party till you have a sticker on every finger. This one I'm just going to stick down like that. And then let's add a little bit of foam tape. Like that. So fun. I'm having fun. Are you guys having fun watching me play with stickers? I don't know. I grew up enjoying stickers, so stickers make me happy. Did you guys ever have sticker books when you were kids where you collect all the stickers? Remember puffy stickers? And you could get puffy stickers for all your favorite, cartoons and things. My husband even had like puffy Transformer stickers stuck to the wall, the wooden paneling in his grandpa's basement from when he was a kid. Oh, can you imagine? Yep. We were the kids that did that kind of thing. Okay, so now if you look down here, this is where you have to kind of pay attention to the little details. There's actually a tiny little piece of shimmer trim or glitter paper, so carrying down that glitteriness from up here at the top, and it's kind of on this little shortbread piece like so, and then we're adding a sticker that says Plant Smiles, and that's one of these nice little saying ones down here, and that's just going to overlap on top of that glitter like so. Isn't that so sweet? And then they had little journaling strips. So I'm not going to add my journaling strips yet because I don't know how big I want to cut them because I don't know what all I'm going to say. So I'm going to leave that blank. But you'll notice here there's a little flower popping up. And where that flower comes from is from on the stamp set here. We have this cute little flower. So I stamped that out somewhere. I stamped it and set it down here somewhere, and now do you think I can see it on my paper? I have lost my little flower, so we're going to have to stamp it again. That's okay. We can totally do that. The good thing about it is that it wasn't even really, so you can see where I even cut it out. Okay, our little flower. So we're going to stamp it with the Intense Black ink because we're going to add a little bit of marker to this, just to add a little bit of color to the center of the flower. So there we go. And I had it already because I was like, I could do that ahead of time and then we wouldn't have to spend the time. But here we are. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, let me bring the catalog back in, is we're only going to see the very top of the flower. So I do not need to fussy cut the bottom at all. Just trim it right off. Easy peasy. And then we can just go ahead and fussy cut what's left. Isn't that nice? A little less fussy cutting for those of you who don't like such things. And you can actually get this stamp set with thin cuts too, but I just like fussy cutting so much I don't bother. I don't bother with the thin cuts. So there we go. And then we're going to use our pale pink blend, tri-blend marker, the very lightest one, and just quickly, like not even taking our time. We're just adding a little swish, swish, swish of color, and that's it. There's no method to that, just adding the color. And then we can tuck that down here under this. Let me grab this little handy dandy little tool. And I tried to be careful not to glue right to the edge of my papers for this reason. And there we go. There's our little flower tucked right under there. And so again, I'm going to have my journaling spots here, but we need to add the teensiest, tiniest little flower. I'm not going to pop it up or anything. I'm just going to stick it down. And then down here we have a little circle and also one of the little strawberries. Now these I think are popped up, so let's grab some foam tape for these. Like that. And I don't think it really depends which way is up on this, but we'll just stick that down, and it's kind of overlapping a few things here. And then this little guy will also add some foam tape. There we go. Like that. And stick it down. Now let's check for any more details. We have our lovely watering can. And this is so fun because all the cutting and coloring is already done. We just got to stick it on. So let's add some foam tape to the back of this. And this is one where we will do our de-stickifying to take away the stickiness, because it's a little bit bigger. And I'm not going to completely cover the whole thing in foam tape. Just little bits of it to give it that dimension that we want. Carol says she's got to go. Someone's at the door. Carol, you're always so busy and you have so much company. How fun is that? Everybody wants to come and see you. All right, so now let me grab my anti-static pouch from over there. So I keep mine in a bowl because all the excess powder just kind of falls back in, and then I can use that to tap onto the back of my sticker. And it just gets a little bit of starch powder on there, and then it's no longer sticky. I always think it's kind of funny though, because, you know, we went to all the trouble of having a sticker and then we made it not a sticker. But we make it so that we can use it however we want, right? All right, let's add our nice little watering can onto our layout, just like that. And let's see what else. I think we may have done everything except for the bling. And the bling on this one is actually little silver glitter gems, but I don't have any silver glitter gems. And so what I decided to do was to use some silver loose sequins. You know, you just use what you have. So even when you're recreating something, you still use what you have. It doesn't have to be precisely the way it is. All right, so let's add a couple up here, just like they have. And then there's even one over here. Sometimes this is one of those hardest things for people to do, is to figure out where to put bling. And so a good way to learn is by copying what other people have done and then seeing how it goes, right? You kind of learn as you do it just by copying. And so I'm using my little pickup tool here to pick it up and put them down into the glue. And then, let's see, we want another little one. There we go. Stick those down there like that. Oh, one of the little stars stuck to my finger. And then there's a couple up here. So you'll notice we have a trio of sparkly embellishments. And that's important. Our brains love odd numbers. So if you're going to do 2, you might as well do 3. And if you're going to do 4, you might as well do 5. Because our brains just love it better that way. And so let's add another trio over here. It's the same with embellishments. If you look at this page, there are 3 major embellishment areas. There's this cluster, and this watering can. And they're all approximately the same size, but they're forming a triangle because there's 3 of them, right? So our brains love those trios, so we might as well do that because that's what makes us happy. You might as well do what makes us happy. There we go. And there we go. And one more up there. This little guy. There we go. And then we've also got one here hiding out and one down here like that. And you'll notice in this spot, we're only going to put 2. And you're going to say, but you just said we wanted to do it in 3s. So what's up with that? Well, if you take a look at this little cluster, what do you see? You see 1, 2, 3. You have a third circular object here. So that's where you're getting your third item in. And so that is everything that we need to add to our layout. What did you guys think of that? So that is the recreation of the Backyard Bliss layout on page 14 in the catalog. We added our chicken wire pattern paper to the background, which creates such a nice subtle look. It's because it's very mild, but it's gorgeous. And then we also used our ruler to figure out all the sizes that we needed for this layout. We created our own ruler so that we knew exactly what we needed and where it needed to be. We matted our photos using that papaya cardstock that also gets carried down into the pattern. I love these angled sort of subway tiles that go one way and then the other. So it's almost like, you know, the lines where, you know, you're waiting to go into, you know, the, get your license renewed or something. And you got to walk through the lines. So it makes your eye travel just like your body would travel through those lines. And then added all the fun embellishments, the stamping, such a fun layout, adding in the stickers and also those Backyard Bliss die cuts. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing how to recreate that layout, and we will see you again soon. Don't forget, we have Chat and Craft this evening from 7 to 9. Hope to see you there. All right, toodaloo. Bye.